about light? Chapter, do you know?
Chapter 6.
Chapter 6, light.
Mm-hmm.
Now for me, and hey y'all, Lindsay here, Christopher Wilson. This is the 50 Days podcast. Let me just get this out in the forefront right now. This chapter for me is the hardest one, I think, so far to get down with. I can feel there's a part of me that's like, I'll just dive straight into like light beings who live on other frequencies of light. There's a place where I'm like, yeah. And then there's a place where I'm like, no.
I'm like, I love that part. And like, it's to me, it makes complete sense. Like, instead of thinking about other forms of life being elsewhere, like somewhere else in a different universe, different galaxy, like I think about it as like we're different rays of light, like the example Gary uses of like a microwave light and then ultraviolet light and then so on and so forth, existing simultaneously. And our physicalness is actually like an expression of that light. So to me, I could like nerd out on this stuff like all day long. And it's like, this chapter is a pretty meta chapter. So yeah, I kind of, I do love the topic. And, yeah, this chapter says the same thing a whole bunch of different ways.
Let's do a chapter overview for the listener. Light.
Okay. Light is the consciousness, the radiance, the presence that infuses an experience. And so, as Gary defines it, light is a radiance that when shines brings light into where there was once darkness. And so his if I were to like summarize a definition, it's that like light and consciousness is what brings existence forth. So it's like, you know, like if a tree falls in the forest, did it really happen type thing. I think if a tree falls in the forest and nobody's around to watch it, did it really fall? Something like that. Did it really? Something like that. We've got condensation dripping from the ceiling because we've had some hot classes today. Yeah, something around like that's what that what was I saying?
I don't. Something about basically light being the creator of like physicality.
Oh yeah.
Yeah. All right. So we have light. We have the non-physical world. We have the physical world, and Gary talks about the non-physical world being where the majority of our experiences, interactions are happening. The non-physical realm, I'll call it, and the majority of our relating with others happening in the non-physical realm. I love the example he gives of a child thinking loving thoughts about a parent and that parent immediately receiving. I mean, they may not consciously be going, wow, my child's thinking of me right now, but that light in the non-physical realm as immediate, above and beyond even traveling as what we call at the speed of light, which is our physical reality's quickest indicator of movement. But this light being different than the physical reality light, this light being immediate. He said something about like intention and the impact in the non-physical reality. Those happen instantaneously. And in the physical reality, we experience that at oftentimes a much slower, here's my intention, now it's lived out into impact. He talked about light, like the different light frequencies that we can vibrate at emotions that we consider negative, anger, fear, judgment, those having a lower vibration than joy, love, having a higher vibration, and how the lower vibration impacts people through a feeling of depletedness. And of course we can all relate to that. Someone we're like, oh, they're vibing high. They walk into a room and they're energizing the room. They just have that, like, no one can really quite say what it is they have, but there's people are drawn to them. And then I know I've experienced not being that person in a room, as well as being that person in the room, and the fluctuations of light vibrations that I get free will to choose. Which
yeah, I mean, like that light, like I think of it as like I see it like vertically, and like it's like I think about times where I bring forth attention and knowing and openness and possibility into every situation. And I think about light as it pertains to the asana practice. In the light can come on instantaneously to me, relating to my body in a certain way, and that to me is a really physical, spiritual lesson, like the asana is, and how, let's say I'm in side angle and I'm like, oh, this muscle beside my spine can like help me twist more, and these muscles in my legs can push into the floor, and it's like, it is instantaneous. It's not like I gradually, it wasn't like a ramp up to a knowing. It was an instantaneous like awareness.
Yeah.
And to me, that's what like the light shining forth is. Like consciousness is like, darkness is unaware, consciousness is aware. And then also that light can magnify, that light can get bigger.
I can't even move on until we tell the story.
Oh, okay. Yeah. Great story today.
And I'm excited to tell Key here the story too. And this will be cute. Everyone will get to see how we as a couple interact with telling stories, because that's a thing, like how couples tell stories together. Every couple has their little nuance. You tell that part. No, you tell that part. Okay, wait, no, you're messing it up.
So pressure's on.
Yeah, okay. But don't worry. We can do it. All right, so here's the scene.
You came in here after the team meeting we just had and said, hey, I got a lot on my plate. Tell me what I need to do.
Yeah, and one of the things I really wanted to do was go over the chapter on light, because like I said, it's felt a little bit over my head at some points, and like, okay, I need a couple years to evolve there. And one thing I wanted to do was read the chapter. So we go to lunch. I'm trying to read the chapter as we're driving. We get out of the car. I'm reading the chapter
out loud. Lindsay's reading the chapter out loud as we get out of the car, and we're crossing the street. And
you say, look how cute we are.
I say, I'm going to get you a crate and a microphone so that you can start reading this book on the corner in front of everybody.
And I'm reading about higher and lower frequencies of vibration, and I'm feeling myself. I'm like, yeah, I'm going to be that person who vibrates light in this world. And yeah, here I go. I'm even making good decisions right now, spending my time reading this good word, going to Flower Child to eat an amazing meal, wow, I'm here to vibrate high.
And in that moment, as Lindsay's reading aloud, a man rides past on the sidewalk on a bicycle, looks over at Lindsay and yells,
"You're going to have to.
Look at that ass."
Chris and I were like, what? like in ladies, we all know that happens 99.9% of the time when a man is not standing right next to you. And I had this moment. We talked about this once we went inside, because first we were like, that there's no way that just happened. I had this moment where I was all in my patting myself on the shoulder for being in the light. And all of a sudden I'm like, oh, this dude's not even in the flash. I'm like, okay, the dude's not pedaling.
Off camera in tears.
I'm like, the dude's not pedaling his bike right now. He was coasting. I'm like analyzing my boots. I'm like, I could pull off a sprint in these boots. I'll tackle this man. I'll tackle him, because now I have Chris with me. Chris isn't gonna let that ass get beat. So I can go ahead and do what I've always wanted to do and live out this like just anger at any time I've been yelled at. And it's not often, especially like usually if someone yells at me and I'm with Chris, they're in a car. They're less, so it's like they're gone as soon as it happens. But he was like, this dude was right there and in like arm's reach.
Yeah, I went through everything within 4 seconds. Yeah, anger, violence. It was funny. And then I thought it was fake. Then I was like, there's no way that was really real. There's no way. That had to be like somebody we knew was around the corner and seen us. Because this moment, the moment of Lindsay reading a chapter on light out loud, talking about the majority of our soul, our soul comes from the non-physical. She's in the middle of this sentence, and for that interaction to happen, yeah, it was just crazy.
And it was a teacher, because like I do want to constantly be reminded, and I was, that all of the things I might demonize on the outside of me are so right there in my experience. I mean, I went from reading a book out loud about light to thinking, strategizing, jumping a human I don't even know because they said a couple words that I felt like shouldn't have been said. And you said something when we got inside, how you're like, I know, I'll paraphrase for you, please correct me. I know I'm not a great person. I'm just a decision away at any point from sliding down that slope.
Yeah. I'm not a good person at all. And I feel like it's because I've gotten and still get to know all the parts of myself. And so, like, that part of myself that wanted to chase him down on the bike and get right is just as real as the part of, it was just as real as the part of myself which it followed 1.4 seconds later that thought that was the funniest thing ever. Yeah. And so straight up, I'm just like living through life moment by moment, choice by choice. And
I would like to get somewhere though in my life where inciting violence in me isn't so easy.
Yeah, I mean, I don't think it's. I think like compounding wisdom and the expansion of light through me, like, and I don't feel like I am a good person just by default. Like I don't think that exists. I think like I get to choose light or dark in every moment. And I don't know if in this chapter, if Gary goes into like consciously choosing light. However, I do feel like earlier in this book when he's talking about intention and reverence, these are buildups into like choose the light, choose the light, choose the light. And he's illuminating with a ton of examples how like you can choose the darkness too. And so, excuse me.
Which, let me go back to karma there for a second.
Yeah.
What I love about the readings around karma that I've done is that choosing light is not just a physical plane experience. And therefore, the karmic impact of it isn't just when it hits the physical plane. Like, my inciting violence in my head in that moment, even for just 2 seconds, 8 seconds. Even though that didn't hit the physical plane, I did not jump this man. There's still a karmic reciprocity that needs to be completed from inciting that violence within me. It's a different debt to be paid than if I had actually jumped him. Like, that has a different karmic closing of the circle. But I think that's important when we talk about choosing light or not choosing light. Like, the inner world, the non-physical experience and the physical experience, they don't have different karmic laws. It's not like, well, as long as I keep it hidden within me, then I'm not going to experience the return of this. Like, I'm still going to experience the return of whatever I play out in my internal world.
If you keep it hidden. And I think that grace is the being able to play out impact. Grace is the being able to be tempted. Grace is the grace is the seeing of that part and allowing it. I don't know exactly how karma works in these finite or in these little particular circumstances moment by moment, but like I can feel within myself that a choosing to not act is a karmic balancing in itself. So it's hard for me to like just like wholly go one way on what you described, because it's a different thing to have negative thoughts or thoughts of violence and like act like they're not there, or I don't know, justify them, defend them, spend time daydreaming them, amplifying them up to self-soothe, and then not acting, versus this is here. I'm not choosing this. This is coming through. I don't want that, and that's what came up. I feel like those are different.
Yeah, I do think that. So there's the times in my life that I've done this, and there's people I know who are doing this actively on certain categories of their life. It's like the perpetually staying in the unlight around something, and that has a physical manifestation. Sure. Gary talks about that, and that'll be like even how other people interact with you. They'll be like, "Ooh, that person." Sure. They don't feel so good, or, and that, like, basically what I'm saying is whatever we're growing, whether it's out here or it's on the inner world, there's an impact to it.
Yeah, because you know if the thought to smack old boy came through and you watched that thought and you had that thought and you leave, and you know if tonight you thinking about it, tomorrow you come back to thinking about how good it would have been if you would have went forehand, backhand, left hand, right hand, uppercut. Like you would have, then next week you thinking about how like if you would have went to the front of the bike and I would have went to the back of the bike, and then we stole his bike after we beat him up.
Yeah.
That's something different than at the moment.
And for whatever else,
for that man bike.
For what it's worth, too, I've daydreamed about those, but I've also daydreamed about like, what if we could have talked to him? What if we could have sat down?
That's like, yes, because I just feel like really, I just want to be like, bro, why?
Yeah.
Because like, even if I wasn't there, like right beside you, like, that's not the move. Like, if you're really trying to get this woman, that's not the move. Like,
no.
You were riding your bike so fast, you were gone, even if she somehow did like it.
And, like, It's just no.
Let me paint the picture for y'all. It's raining. It's raining, and he's riding a bike quickly.
Yeah, so okay, I just still wanted to talk to him too and say that's not gonna what like I daydreamed about it even being kind of like patronizing. Like I was talking to like a kindergartner to be like, hey, so we don't say everything that we think. Like we don't say all those things out loud. And I would love, and this is work to be done, because if it's out here, it's in there. I would love to have that thought before I have the smackdown thought. I would love to have the like, gosh, I have a great lesson I've learned in my life I can share with him. I've got some insights maybe he hasn't had before, so maybe I can tell him, or like, wow, he just might not know something that I've had the opportunity to learn in my life, or even come into this incarnation already having learned that in the past. Maybe I was the dude yelling dead ass.
Like compounding interest of choosing light, of choosing to be in truth and choosing to explore your intention is at work. In that, these things that you saying, that how you hope to those to come through your mind as soon as it happens. Well, now it's 2 hours later and they're in your mind now. So before you have been consciously working to evolve yourself to choose choices through the light, who knows if this happened 4 years ago, would these thoughts at all have come to your mind? So
and sorry, I didn't mean to cut you off.
It's hard to like, I don't want to put you or nobody in a game of like keeping tabs on your growth, but all we can know is that like I feel that it's happening time and time again, that I get to love and truth sooner and sooner.
When I think about low frequency, I really believe that these vessels that we're in, these physical manifestations, they do so well on high vibration. They do so well on light, capital L. And so going back to the conversation about karmic impact of things happening in our inner world, I don't think it was Gary in this book that was talking about it. It might have been in another book. It might have been another author. But the author was talking about like there's not so like the light frequency, the low vibrational light frequency of anger that can happen in the inner world, and it's not happening in this made up land where there's no impact to it immediately. So like my karmic, so there's physiological responses to anger. If I'm getting angry, and I've experienced this, if I'm getting angry or I'm getting stressed or I'm getting anxious often in my life, lower vibrational things, less light, capital L, my throat will start to hurt. I might have digestional issues. That in one perspective being the karmic impact of inciting anger in my non-physical experience. And I just wanted to point that out too, because I want to take radical responsibility for how I treat this body. And I know I'm learning and I'm growing, and flash daydreams of anger, I can be compassionate with myself. I can give myself grace. And I think also giving the grace is the parental honest conversation. It's like if Sky's just eating spoonfuls of sugar, we're still going to love her. And we're going to say, hey, that's going to hurt. And that might feel really good right now, but that's going to hurt you. I think the same thing with inner world daydreams of anger. They're going to hurt.
I want to nerd out on this a bit. Other intelligences inhabit other ranges of frequency. These forms of life do not exist elsewhere from us, Just as infrared light, microwave light, and many other ranges of frequencies coexist with the visible light spectrum but are invisible to us, the life forms that are characterized by different frequency ranges of non-physical light coexist with us but are invisible to us. And this is where I'm going to hook you into this conversation.
Hook me.
That phenomena that he just described is also happening with every choice and version of Lindsay that you do or don't make. So the Lindsay who has made every other different combination of choices multiplied by the infinite choices of your life, including if you would have beat old boy up and stole his bike, that Lindsay exists, and you're not bringing light to that reality that also exists because you brought light to this reality that you're in right now. What you think?
Yeah.
And
it sounds
I know
good.
that. I know that. I feel like I know that.
Yeah.
And I feel like I know it in like every choice I could have made and didn't make is out there. Well, but I'm living in this one because it's what I'm doing. Mm-hmm. So I think like this like life, I don't know, existence is so much bigger than us in this body that we're doing a Chris and Lindsay dance in, that even in the realm of being human, there exists so many other options and pathways in any moment that we could choose to shine more light on that. We could choose to shine light in this way and direct our attention that way. And I feel like that's the same thing when it goes to, different, what does he say? Other intelligences or other forms of life. And that also really helps me make sense of the concept that whenever we condense ourselves into being in physical form, that's also whenever we agree to being in the laws of time and space. Because I feel like if I was always in the laws of time and space eternally, I'd be like, and this is something I was so scared to say as a kid going to church. If I'm always in heaven, that's going to be boring because that's like a long time, forever and ever and ever. And so it feels relieving to think of time and space as a law like gravity that guides the physical experience. So it's like, okay, I'm always not in that where I'm like, paradise is good and all, but it's been 27,000,180 billion kafillion 8 canillion years.
Yeah, 8 canillion.
I want you to caption that word I just said.
Yes, I hear you. And it's there's not much for me to say on this because it's one of those subjects that feels to me like just so foreign. That's it. It's so foreign. It's like,
do you feel like it just don't resonate with you? Or do you feel like you're not grasping it?
I feel like I'm grasping it as much as like intellectually grasping it can happen. It feels different to me than other topics in this book that I'm like, I feel like, I can jive with, I can talk about. I think there might be some of my upbringing in here through Christianity and being raised in Catholic schools, whereas like the conversation about other beings was pretty minimal to God, some angels who showed up every now and again in a scene and did something cool, and then humans. And so it's not just, I'm not saying I don't believe it. I'm saying I've spent so little time of this physical manifestation of my soul, considering that something else could be at play other than me, source, and some type of guiding energy. That's it. It's just so like unpracticed.
Yeah, I get that, and I feel like I've spent a lot of time being like, well, why am I a human? I got fingers and eyes, like, and so then where if I go to like, why am I a human? Then I say, why not other stuff with other things other than, I don't know, eyes and hair in a world, and like imagining like how different a spider's reality is, how different an ant's reality is, how different a bat's reality is. Then I'm like, okay, we're exploring currently that like for other life to be possible, it's like you got to have like water and oxygen and whatever else it is you got to have for life to happen on other planets. But what if you on some other stuff? Sure.
Yeah.
And then there'll be audience members who might be like, yeah, let's talk more about the.
You just, do you know, and I'm sure you do, you know the feeling when you just know it's time to listen more than it is to talk? This is one of those topics for me. It's like other light beings. I'm like, can someone else share on that? You know, it's just so I'm excited for our meeting coming up with the people participating in 50 days when we talk about this. Because I can imagine just all different. And there's more to the light chapter than other beings.
Yeah.
And I'm definitely like, I'm not the girl, I'm not the gal for sharing a lot on other beings. I'm the one to maybe listen.
Well, I ain't met him yet, but if I see him, I'll say what's up.
Tell him, hey.
That's light, y'all. And can't wait to hear what you got to say about it at our Sunday meeting. If you're watching this video on YouTube, leave a comment. Where do you feel about other intelligences inhabiting other ranges or frequencies? And yeah, keep the convo going.
See ya.